Today in the Boot Guide, we are looking at the COMAL County Boot by Ranch Road Boots. Now, if it's your first time here at Ranch Road Boots, it's understandable. They've only been around since 2012. But when you take a really good look at these boots, you can see that the cobblers they hire to build these boots have been building boots for a really long time. Now, where do you start with something that's this beautiful? It's a very classic style short pull-on boot. And I think the only place to start is the most unique part about the pull-on boot, and that's the crepe sole. This crepe sole is odd. It's weird to see something like this on this type of pull-on boot, this classic Western style, to come with this soft crepe sole. And it is an exceptionally soft sole. When you have these things on and you're moving around, it feels nothing like a Western boot. It feels more like a really soft wedge sole work boot because that's just how pliable the material is. Now that crepe sole is held on by a double stitched leather welt, which makes these things resoleable. And because it's a double stitched welt and because it's a handmade boot, any cobbler is going to have a really easy time picking out a sole for you when you do have to have these resoled. And I say that mainly because crepe is not the longest wearing material, and this kind of boot, with as beautiful as it is, you're probably going to wear this thing all the time and you're going to wear through that sole pretty quick. But don't worry, because Ranch Road used a Charles F. Steed suede. This is the water resistant suede from the Steed company. So it's a little bit more durable and it's a little bit more forgiving when you start wearing this thing as your daily boot. And when you use this as a daily boot, it's going to get worn down a little bit easier. It's going to show more life. Suede starts to take on a sheen of sorts. But I think as that happens, a boot like this with this much detail and that much quality is just going to look completely beautiful. Now, I mentioned it's a handcrafted boot and it's built by cobblers in Spain. And if you know anything about overseas shoes, if you've seen high-end shoes from Italy, if you've seen high-end shoes from places like Greece or even a Scandinavian country, you know that cobblers in those countries are just like the cobblers here in the States, and they take a lot of pride in what they do. So enough about the aesthetic. As you can tell, it's a beautiful boot. Let's get to how it fits and feels. Now, out of the box, this boot is snug. Everything about it is snug. The shaft is a really narrow shaft. For Western boots that I'm used to wearing, this is probably the most narrowest shaft I've ever had to slide my foot down into and then get it out. There's no way this boot is coming off for the first few weeks without a boot jack. You will need one if you're purchasing a pair of these. But if you're purchasing a pair of these, you probably already own one. This is not going to be the first pair of Western pull-on boots that you pick up. But if it is, definitely add a boot jack to the purchase. Now, the instep and the arch and the heel and all that, it's pretty typical. It's what you would come to expect from a handmade boot from overseas. A handmade boot from Spain it's there. It's got a nice little cushion that's embedded into the sole, but sitting on top of that soft cushion footbed, there is a layer of cork in there. So it's going to be a lot more comfortable than if it was just a solid piece of leather in the bottom. And another step that they did is they actually used a steel shank for support between the heel and the forefoot. So it is like a typical Western boot. You're going to get that support that you need in order to walk around all day in a pair of these. Now, like I said, it's a tight fitting boot, but don't let me discourage you from not buying your size. Now, my personal size in this boot is a size 12, and the first time I put them on, I was kind of regretting it. I was kind of thinking, well, maybe it should have been a 13. Maybe it should have been something a little bit wider. But as I wore it around a lot more, as I started to soften up the leather, as it started to break in, as it started to warm up to my foot, I completely forgot about it being tight right in the width of my foot. My foot started to push that super soft leather liner that they used and this beautiful suede. It started to shape and form around my foot just from a few hours of wearing it. So all in all, who do I think the end user is going to be for this boot? Well, I think it's you guys who want a weekend boot. You guys who want to take that plunge into getting a pair of Western boots. Though it's probably not the best place to start if this is going to be your first introduction to pull-on boots, but if it turns out it is, I think you're going to be quite happy with this thing as time progresses, as it stretches to fit your foot, and as you start to break down the crepe sole, and it just takes on its own characteristics to your gait. So that's the Comal County pull-on boot by Ranch Road Boots in a beautiful suede. Hey, if you own Ranch Road Boots, any of the models that they make, please comment below and let guys know what you think about the company and the construction of the boot. Hey, if it's your first time seeing anything from Ranch Road Boots, swing by thebootguy.com. Not only will I have detailed photos of this boot, but I'll have a couple links that'll bring you back to their site, and that will allow you to see some of the other fine boots that they do make. Hey, please don't forget to hit my subscribe button below. It really helps out. And remember, you can always follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Hey, if you're about to pick up a pair of these Ranch Road boots, and if you're about to pick up a pair of the Comal Counties, and you just got some questions about size and fit, like I mentioned, it being a little bit tighter than normal, if you got questions before you buy, feel free to shoot me over an email. All right, until the next time, I'm the Boot Guy. Thanks a lot for watching.